You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Justified After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Justified After Show.
What? No music? There it is.
Oh.
Hey, everybody. Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another Justified Season 4, Episode 6, Foot Chase is the name of the episode. I am Tamara Berg. I'm joined in studio by Joe Braswell.
Hello. Hi, Tamara.
And Steve Bottomley.
I'm here.
You are here in the booth with Stephen Lemieux.
How's it going, guys?
Well.
And we are happy to be talking about Justified tonight. John is not here with us tonight. He has another commitment. He will be with us next week.
Sorely missed.
Yeah, as always. I'm
he
going to do
usually brings food, so we're very hungry.
So you're really missing him,
yeah.
right? Well, I'm going to do my best to impersonate him, not really, but try and fill his seat. And we're about the same height, so it'll work out just perfectly. I can say stuff like that if I want. Okay, Foot Chase. So let's talk about, you know, we usually pick topics before we go in and sort of follow a storyline. And this episode is kind of getting back to really sort of how Season 1 was, where they were kind of laying out the world and establishing relationships. And I feel like it's that kind of mode they're going through again in this episode. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this whole season has been this really fantastic this fantastic exercise in nonlinear storytelling. So usually it sort of goes along this, you know, line, a linear line stories. This one's kind of pulling out, like rippling out. So rippling out, there's more characters, you know, more stories, more people, you know, more mysteries. And I'm assuming that as we get to the halfway point, it'll start to sort of zoom back in.
Right.
But, you know, it's really a great method of storytelling because it's sort of every week it's like, more people, more this, more layers.
Well, and the other thing is, and who was that guy and what was that season from? And, you know, it really kind of challenges one's brain. You cannot drink while you're watching this show because you miss some of it.
Although it would be a fun drinking game if you took a shot on every great line.
Oh, goodness.
You would not be able to function.
Absolutely. Especially if you were drinking apple pie.
Last year, it was like every episode is amped up higher and higher. I mean, last season.
Right, last season, yeah.
They've kind of slowed it down.
I agree.
And they've just kind of gone, no, we're gonna, just what you were saying, we're just going to open the world up a little bit more. They're opening, but it's actually more contained. Last season, they had all the different factions coming in. You had, you know, the barbecue faction.
Right.
You had the Dixie Mafia faction. You had all these different things going on. Much smaller, but they're taking their time to really go into it and deal with it.
Yeah, I do feel like this is more the way Season 1 was laid out. And so, and I really like that storytelling. But as I say, it's a challenge to remember sometimes where people are coming from, what's going on. And even if I were just a fan not watching the show for AfterBuzz, I'd probably still take notes so I can follow everything.
Well, what they do,
I love it.
and they do well, is they drop you right in the middle. For instance, the opening on this one, we're in Dale's house.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be thinking about who's Dale and why am I supposed to keep track and was he here before and all that stuff, you just kind of have to sit back and go, I'll find out when I'm supposed to.
Right, exactly.
Even when we were watching it, a couple of times I was going, wait, stop. So
we go back.
You need a chart.
Exactly, exactly.
Like you said, mentioned last season. Last season seemed like they started wide and just sort of like amped up the tension and things sort of like the world was closing in and things were getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Well, this is sort of they're laying it all out.
It's like
a slow,
reverse.
it's a reverse sort of widening out, and the similar. Like I said, we'll get back to the center at some point, but
Right.
So really, I love it. I love
So
it.
in predictions, we're probably going to start talking about body count eventually.
Sure, because we're at episode 6 now.
Episode 6.
They are really taking their time because they're just doing a body piece by body
Right,
piece.
exactly. Just part by part, little drips of blood here and there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I loved about this episode was watching Shelby and Raylan kind of come together. It's, again, one of those uncomfortable alliances where people don't exactly trust each other. And, you know, starting straight off when Raylan comes across Benny, the kid from the car, and Shelby shows up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit before that, when they're at the crime scene.
Oh, yeah,
and,
of course,
and
yeah.
he's giving his deputies no respect at all.
Yes.
So they set it up that Raylan does not respect the office and
Yep.
he doesn't respect any, for good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, they're stumbling around and stuff.
Right, literally putting their foot in it in
Right.
the crime scene.
And so they now have this challenge of Raylan just assumes Shelby's dirty because
Right.
of how he got into the office, and he was.
Right.
But Shelby has this hill he has to climb of, and he says it in the thing. He says, "My loyalty is to the law."
Sure.
So now there's, you know, in the classic form, it's a show me, don't tell
Right.
me. So Shelby has to show Raylan that his loyalty is to the law. And how does he do it? He goes after Boyd.
Right.
Well, we talked about this last week. We're really trying to get to the bottom of Shelby's motivations for sort of, you know, everything
Yes.
from Ellen May to where he is. And we touched on the fact that maybe he really is, you know, has had it. He was really sort of an unwilling participant in the Boyd sort of circus. And he said it point blank. He sort of answered all of our questions, like with the line, you know, I use Boyd to get in office, but my loyalty is to the law. But a question I have, which I'll pose to you guys, is he really... Is this about the law or is this about Boyd? Is this a really sort of like, I want to get Boyd? Is this a personal vendetta? Or is he really sort of like, you know...
I think it's a combination of both. I think he feels he can't uphold the law as long as Boyd is in existence.
Is the wild card in play.
Right. As long as Boyd has power, he will never be able to uphold it. It'll be an empty office.
Right.
And I don't think his pride will allow that. Now, to step up against Boyd, and that was a moment that you saw where Raylan kind of looked at him like, you know what you just did.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Well, so do you believe him when Shelby says he's a good guy in that sense?
I do.
You do?
I do, and the reason I do is because I'll explain in predictions why I do.
Okay.
But at this moment in time, and again, it's justified, so tune in next week.
Exactly.
But yeah, I really do. I think he's got Ellen May. He's definitely trying to put a case together. He's trying to, you know, circle those wagons around to figure out how to get Boyd out of the picture for whatever reason.
And, you know, I believe him, too, because, you know, Boyd threatened him point blank and sort of said, you know, this is a corner. You turn a corner, you can't walk back around.
Right.
You know, Shelby knows what Boyd's capable of. He knows what the Crowder family's capable of. He knows what he's going against.
Yes.
It seems to not bother him personally. He seems to want to take them down. So.
And here's the thing. You have to play the reality in that, in which case, if he's really not worried about that, you can't say, well, then Boyd isn't a bad guy. Boyd's a very bad guy. So Shelby, I'm going to figure, knows something beyond what we know in order for him to not be worried about crossing Boyd.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
like he's got an ace in the hole and it's
somewhere.
all card game analogies with me, but yeah.
You know, if you think about it, because otherwise, yeah, you just cross Boyd. So
How can you be so confident going into
he
that
blows
firestorm?
people up, yeah.
Right.
Unless his ace in the hole is Ellen May. I mean, maybe he sort of teased Boyd with that a little bit and, you know, sort of try to get something going.
I think it's going to be a showdown with Ellen May and the sheriff, Shelby and Boyd and everybody, because, you know, if you take out Shelby, you still have to get to Ellen May.
Sure.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think everyone's going to come to the table on that one.
And they're also still a little concerned about Detroit, the bad guys in Detroit, right?
They showed up.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Just when you think you're rid of them.
Now, are they keeping an eye on things, or are they there to sort of monitor the situation? Or are they there to do...
Detroit wants Drew. Detroit is, well, we'll back it up a little bit. Wynn Duffy has been, pointed to find Drew. Sure. Wynn Duffy turned it over to Boyd.
Right.
So obviously Detroit is being kept abreast, which is why they showed up. They knew, I guess they were there to collect Josiah.
Right.
And, you know, work their magic with him.
Right.
So, two things. Josiah is not going to die yet. He's still going to be, because he knows a lot.
Not today.
Not today.
And they're still setting up the fact that Detroit is on their way. So, you know, this was episode 6.
Episode 6.
Right.
That's just about right.
Yeah, exactly. Around halfway through, getting a little sprinkling.
But
Don't
I
want to
love
forget
how
about
they
them.
do that. They lay out a lot of, even though we're saying that it's smaller, but there are still a lot of storylines here. In order to remind you of that, you just need that one car, and Raylan saying you're going to find a Detroit credit card.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need. Oh, that's right. You know, that'll throw your head back to, you know, Win Duffy and all of that, and the guy getting blown away and all that sort of stuff.
And of course, Johnny mentioned, you know, Johnny and Boyd had the conversation about Win and Detroit early on, in that very interesting turn where Johnny tries to warn Boyd. And Boyd sort of says that line. I mean, Johnny says, or Boyd says, "Lucky for me, it isn't you." And I'm like, "It is you. It is him." But yeah, so we'll see how that plays out.
I do like how they are setting up kind of the father figure with Raylan.
Shelby and Raylan.
Shelby and Raylan, and how, you know, they started this episode out with Raylan saying, you know, if you don't mind, I'll just call it bullshit and we'll move on. They ended it with sort of like a grudging
truce.
sort of, you know, okay,
truce,
maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not buying into it yet sort of thing.
Right.
And they kind of did that, I think, with the various camps. They did it with Shelby and Raylan. They kind of paired them off. Okay, you two. We spent some time with Boyd and his group, and also Tim and Mike. Mark.
Well, but I just to finish up, the Raylan and Shelby thing came together because now they have yet another common enemy who is Hunter. Hunter is the guy who Josiah says knows where Drew Thompson is. Hunter is also the guy who was also a former sheriff, I believe. And or marshal, former deputy, I think is what they said, and you know, called out the hit on Raylan, and this is back in season 1.
Wow.
Right.
They're reaching way back.
Right. So, but he's been in jail all this time.
Right. Presumably.
Well, here's the good news. They're willing to go all the way back to season 1 to bring these characters back. So we may see Dickie again. We may see a lot of cool characters.
I hope we see Dickie
come out. I don't think we're going to see the prison guard again.
No, sorry.
I think he really is gone. But
yeah.
Well, you know, I just wrapping up this whole thing about, you know, Raylan and the dad. I just, you know, Tim Oliphant, you know, the acting is just superb. He does so much with not saying anything. I mean, just his looks, his reactions. I mean, we talked about his initial reaction to Shelby was like, it was just sort of all in the look of like, what is this guy? I don't know. And by the end, and then when we had that conversation with Boyd, it was sort of like, oh, well, shit, this guy. And then by the end, it was like, meh, okay. And I felt all of that. I got 100% of exactly where Raylan's coming from just by Oliphant sort of acting. And that was fantastic.
You know, and I think about if there's ever a discussion in the writers' room about, you know, do they need a very special episode where Raylan breaks down, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's always, and I wonder if the discussion happens, and if it's like, do we want to do that? You know, I mean, to me, that's kind of a very tricky thing to do.
This is what I love about the show.
There's an opening if they wanted to.
Yes.
If he were to lose 2 very, very precious things, like a wife and baby.
As I've been predicting for a really long time now.
But I kind of like, I'm watching him, and as much as I do enjoy watching him, there is sort of this, you know, okay, you need to open that character up a little bit more.
Right.
You know, and
well, last season, if you'll remember, he got a little, you know, off track in the, you know, the violence category. So we know that he can.
He was drinking.
Yeah, and we know that he can veer off of the cool cucumber, you know, guy. MO. But I think it might be interesting to see that. I like that that thought.
I actually conversely enjoy really sort of, you know, Raylan as a character, the strong, silent type.
The guy you can count on always.
And I just like the idea of, I love the idea of him being just cool and calm and a man of few words. And like, again, so few people can play that well you know, the handful of guys who can do that man a few words, but then understand exactly, have the audience understand exactly what he's thinking. And I'm just back to Tim Oliphant. I want to get that Emmy so bad.
Well,
I know, me too. He's so good at this character, especially when you've seen him do other things, you know, and realize that he makes it look so effortless in this show.
Not Raylan,
he's so not
in real life.
He was pretty good in The Office too for 2 episodes.
Yes, he was.
But one of the reasons why he can be that
super handsome guy or whatever he was, he was excellent in that.
He just needed a Stetson. The reason why he can do that is also because his surrounding characters are so, you know, full.
Yeah.
You know, so it works, and but we'll see. You know.
Yeah.
We will see.
So let's talk about Tim and Mark, which was an interesting little bit of a diversion for these characters, and again, kind of splitting people into pairs or camps.
Sure.
So Tim showing up to, you know, meet what seemed like a war buddy, a war vet buddy, right?
Right.
Who was a former drug user coming out of a meeting.
Definitely.
And simultaneously happens to come upon Colton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy's driver,
We'll talk about Colton in a little bit, but, you know, it sort of, again, kind of sets the tone of not everything is exactly the way we think it is in these places. So Tim and his buddy, whose name we just determined was Mark, right?
I believe it's Mark.
So Tim and Mark pair up because they need to go handle one of Mark's old debts, you know, just a debt from when I was using. I'm not anymore. I'm not using anymore. It's all going to be cool. Don't you worry.
That's one of, I mean, I'm not, isn't that part of the 12-step program thing is the whole, he's got to go and make amends? Is that
right? Yeah.
What he did? Okay. Yep. So, you know, we touched on, we always touch on sort of, you know, expanding this world of the deputies, you know, and so the marshals, I mean, and so we're getting more of Rachel's
background in her life.
And more of Tim. So sort of this alternating sort of Rachel, Tim, and we get more Tim, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious on where they're going with it, because now we have Mark at episode 6.
Right.
And everything else is kind of laid in.
Right.
So it really is not a thing about Mark. This is going to be Tim's
It has something to do with Tim, right?
Right. But the intro was really kind of rushed.
Do you mean the moment when they met in outside the meeting at the hospital?
And there was a lot of expos early. You know, we know he has an oxy addiction because of the multiple surgeries on his leg.
Right.
And you know, did you try the acupuncture and the banter back and forth? So you know there's history.
Yes.
But you also know that Tim isn't quite, Mark isn't quite who Tim thinks he is.
Right.
So as I'm watching it, I'm like, and the interesting thing about it is you need to strip when you go into the dealer's house.
Yeah.
You know, which
everyone
is
knows
really,
that,
which, you know, but you think about it, you go, well, that's actually a really good way to check.
Well, and it was a great kind of misdirection, because there was the guy running out naked as they were coming in. I was like, whoa, we came upon some crazy sex scene, and then determined, oh, no, this is how everybody leaves the house. Sex or no sex.
So I'm not sure where it's going and why they've introduced it, but they are spending more time with Mark.
Yeah.
And they're also positioning him, you know, as they kind of Mark last week, Mark and Colton were together. This week again, they're showing them together. So they're kind of positioning the number two guys.
Sure.
But honestly, beyond that, I'm really not sure what's going on with the Tim and Mark thing. I don't know where it's going to lead Mark or.
Well, it just seems like, I mean, not to really.
I'm sorry, Tim.
Trying to get into, you know, grandiose in the gang's head, but it's like, it's really, you can use Mark as a storytelling device to tell you more about Tim.
Sure.
So whatever Mark is going to do, you can see what we see as viewers, how Tim reacts to that, and that's going to tell us more about Tim. Which I think is the goal, right? It's supposed to be able to know more about Tim and what.
Right, but that still has to track. That still has to, you know, go up the roller coaster ride for the big final thing, and it's kind of like I'm just trying to figure out. What is that ride going? Right. You know, how is introducing Mark at this point going to interweave with everything else that we've been hanging out with?
Right.
Through Tim. So anyway, it was.
Well, you know,
it's fun to see Tim.
Yeah.
You know.
It is, and give us more, flesh out his character a little more, other than he's a really good shot.
Right.
You know, which is kind of basically the main thing that we know about him.
Which is all we know.
And he's a bit sassy with Raylan. But the other thing is it seems to me like Mark is going to be a catalyst of some sort that's going to set Tim off or something else off.
Right. I wonder,
Two months sober, by the way. So, you know, or clean, whichever way you want to call it.
So he's still shaky. He can drop.
A little shaky. I wonder, because every bit of every character, almost every character we see, almost every bit of storytelling we have is sort of connected and interconnected in this long sort of web. Except, you know, Rachel and Tim, who sort of live out in the peripherals of this world. So I wonder if it's just sort of a way to flesh out the world, tell these stories over here, or if they somehow will connect and intersect as well. That'll be interesting to see.
Mark may force Tim to do something, and then that Tim shouldn't have done, and somebody may have something later on Tim. I don't know. I don't know where they're going with it. I'm sure it's going to be pretty awesome wherever they end up.
Yeah.
But when you're saying, you know, we get to see a little bit more of Tim.
Yeah.
You know, they're
very stingy with all the information on the show.
But even the depth of his character, you know, you got to see him get irritated with Mark, so he likes Mark.
Right. He's a quick draw.
An affection, and he's a
he drew that guy pretty damn quick.
But that was not. Somebody said Mark is Raylan 10 years younger. I mean Tim.
Tim.
Yeah. Sorry, Tim is Raylan 10 years younger.
Yeah,
that's probably right.
Yeah, hasn't shot enough people face to face yet to really
more long distance.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then let's talk about Colton. This was a really interesting process that we went through, opening the show pretty much with Colton, smoking heroin, black tar heroin, right? Because I know so much about it, I recognized it immediately.
I asked you, what is that?
I did know, but
that's black tar heroin.
It's because I watch a lot of Intervention.
Flashback to every high school dance you went to.
Oh, seriously. So Colton, smoking his heroin, what I wrote on my thing was, he's sucking heroin right there. You know, it's just like, another loose cannon.
And getting looser.
Yes, because he started that way.
Yeah.
Go take care of that. Bam! I meant take care of it. I didn't mean kill him. And so he's so unpredictable to begin with, and then adding drugs into the mix. Goes in and finds Terry in her trailer as he's tossing her place looking ostensibly for drugs or money, right?
Yeah.
Or a clue for Ellen May. But I'm guessing drugs and money.
Right.
Drugs, money.
And then, you know, since Terry shows up, conveniently asks her, hey, where's Ellen May?
Right.
Shouldn't you know where Ellen May is? Although they don't know.
It's really, I had him wrong. I mean, I really thought when we first saw him in that episode, even though he was quick to kill that guy, take care of him, I thought this guy was like sort of cool, calm, collected. He's a military man. He's got his shit together. He
kind of a counterpoint to Raylan, right?
Raylan, exactly.
Yep.
And that's how I saw him. I'm like, oh, this guy is smart. He's going to do this. And then to see him sort of unravel in this way is really interesting, which I wonder, is this sort of, was he already this ticking time bomb, or is it him losing Ellen May that made him sort of, that was his weird turning point when he sort of started to do that spiral. There was no hint of drug use before that.
That's what I was just going to say. I don't think we'd ever saw him do drugs before.
Yeah, well, again, I think he was trying to impress Boyd when we first met him.
Right.
So he may have been like, okay, I'm going to be clean. But now that he is in this world, he's spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I think he is not going to survive the season.
Oh,
right.
So the question really is, how much damage does he wreak through his behavior while he is alive in this world?
Right. And
at this point, he's setting up a lot of damage.
Right. And one of the elements that I think is interesting is, last season was really all about oxy, and this season is about heroin, and here's Colton smoking heroin. So.
And not only smoking heroin, but now he's going way off the reservation. He's pulling a gun on a guy that he doesn't know because he assumes the guy can get to a dealer.
Right.
And he's doing it while everybody else is saying, "Where are you? We need you."
Yeah.
So, he is bull in a china shop right now.
He is.
He's very, very reckless in an organization that Boyd runs very tight. He's very meticulous. He's very he plans everything out. He seems to be 2 steps ahead, and he's got this guy who's just I mean, just there's nothing more reckless than smoking heroin in your with your boss out right outside.
Oh no, sure there is. It's doing that naked.
That's right.
But which is the way I. Never mind. I'll tell you that story later.
Another time. No, but yeah. So he's all like he's playing guns.
See what happens when John isn't here?
I know
it all comes
crazy.
out. It all comes out. So yeah, he's really, but like you said, Stevie, he's not going to survive because there's no way. He's doing a crap load of damage.
He is. He's leaving a wake.
A wake of damage. I mean, someone's going to talk. He's not going to get by much longer on. You say anything, I'll kill you. I mean, he's got someone's going to at some point going to be not afraid of him.
But the question becomes, who does kill him? I think it's Tim. Because they've set and Tim together for so long.
Oh yeah, we talked about the military showdown.
Yeah, I think we can go
predictions. Jesus, we're always doing our predictions in the middle of the show.
Well, I got a different prediction.
Okay,
good. And actually, at some point, we could do like a little segment of who kills who. No, I'm going to say that I'll bet Tim takes out, Colton because we keep seeing him. But
I think that's probably a good bet.
But as he gets more and more out of control, it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Right. And that's what pressure of him losing his charge in Ellen May and drugs, those things coming together just create havoc. Them coming into the Max, the customer, and beating the living daylights out of him.
I think
that was
really
ugly.
He wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted to kill him so that there was never any, because he realized when he hit Terry, he just went up against Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again, it's the drugs. It's this impulse and then the damage control.
Right. It all makes sense in his head, though.
It does. It absolutely does.
I want to thank our listeners for going to iTunes and downloading our shows. We really appreciate what you do for us, and we show our appreciation by continuing to do it ourselves for you. But we ask that you please rate and comment while you're on iTunes. It really helps us out. Thank you for those of you who have. We got, I think it was a 5-star rating this week.
Hooray.
We're happy about that. Thank you very much. So please do continue to rate and comment on iTunes. Let us know what you're thinking and tell a friend because it really helps us out, and we are grateful for all the downloads. We're doing a lot of shows here on AfterBuzz, and we do it for you guys, so thanks.
We work really hard to get guests in and people from the various shows, not just this show, but all of the shows. Yeah, we work really hard, and when we can tell them, no, check us out, they're the following people are really into this, that gets them more interested to come on, and in that turn, you have an opportunity to, submit a question, call in, whatever.
Yeah, it helps us make our shows even more compelling than they are right now.
And then we all go out and we all just hang out at a bar afterwards.
Right.
So they usually buy the drinks.
Yes.
So that's the other reason.
You are such a liar, Steve.
Big time. Big time liar.
But thank you for all your support on iTunes, and please continue it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's seriously talk about Boyd and Ava.
Boyd and Ava.
Oh my God, there's gonna be a wedding! I hope it's a June wedding.
I gotta tell you, I know that Graham said said that let's not forget that Boyd is a bad guy, and he is bad, but. I can't help. I like Boyd. I like him more and more every episode. I mean, he's, look, he's a bad guy. He's a criminal. I mean, he, obviously ex-neo-Nazi, the whole whatever he was doing back then. Right. But this guy, he runs by a weird sort of code of honor. Like he's really almost doesn't seem to, we've seen him have what appears to be these compassionate acts at least 2 or 3 times this season with, especially with the preacher guy who ended up dead. He seems to give people these opportunities. Today we saw him when he did the home invasion. He said, "We're not going to let you. I'm not going to kill you. We're going to let you go." I mean, it just seems to be.
He apologized.
He apologized. I mean,
he's a very polite.
Very polite
gangster.
Well, earlier when I said very special episode where Raylan, breaks, it was. I thought there was a little bit of that in this episode with Boyd, and I thought the timing was really good.
Because of the engagement, you mean, or because of the whole?
Because of the whole. He's trying to keep his family together, but more important, they finally hit on this is why he's doing this.
Yes,
it's not just for the power, but it's for the family name to finally say. You're not going to run us off this hill. A Crowder child is going to be able to pay all the pain that he had. he doesn't want to have his lineage have to go through that.
Right.
It fits into the sort of like hillbilly Shakespeare that
it is. It's a very honorable thing, and he's doing the wrong thing for with an honorable idea.
Right.
And it was a really good time to hit that.
The reveal as to why, like, what is the motive? What motivates Boyd? I mean, he's not this evil guy necessarily. He's not just this money grubbing guy.
He's dimensional. He's human and has dimension, right?
Exactly. And we saw early on in the first episode, we saw that he was hiding this money. Don't tell Ava. Don't tell Ava. And we thought, oh no, this is going to be bad. But it's actually, this is for you, Ava. This is all for you. And I gotta say, I was really moved by all that. I thought there's Boyd, he's a bad guy, but it all seems to be sort of for the quote unquote right reasons. However, we did find out that, I think you all thought this but me, we did find out that it was actually Boyd who did call the hit out on Ellen May, and it was Boyd's decision, and clearly not Ava's decision, because Ava was very upset about the fact that she called him out, like, Boyd, I'll follow you anywhere, but that Ellen May thing, and he's kind of like, I did it for you. She was going to take you down. Right. I did this all for you. So let me show you why I did this for you, because I have this money and I'm going to marry you. And
Well, and I don't want to not talk about the engagement scene, but with that, Ava is sitting there pouring her heart out and saying, I'm really kind of coming unglued with this. This is really not okay with me. But how do you think that's going to affect her if and when Ellen May comes back?
Yeah, well,
because that's going to be huge conflict for her, right?
Sure, it will be huge conflict for her, and it's really it's really interesting to me to see, where Ellen May ends up, because it's very clear that that Ava, that she's family to Ava. Ava will be extremely happy that she's alive. Right. She'll still be a threat potentially. Yes. And so, what will become of Ellen May? Will she come back to the Crowder family, or will she have to go? She can't stay. She has to come back, or she has to go. So that's really, and how that affects Ava and that decision she has to make. Because she'll have to make that decision at some point. And that's going to be, who knows?
Well, the first assumption is Ellen May actually lives.
Right.
Right.
So we'll take that assumption.
Well, I'm assuming she's going to live long enough to confront Ava.
Right.
Because Ava will find, oh my God, she's alive. And at that point, something will have to happen.
Right.
Well, I think she's struggling because she, you can't kill an innocent without, having
a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think she saw Ellen May as, an innocent. She kind of was looking out for her. They killed a guy that was going to hurt her.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, and that was one of the first times where she did have to see the really, really dirty side of what they do.
Right.
So, and with Boyd's past and everything that he went through, I'm thinking that he sees, to get over that hill, he's got to do just whatever it takes, and horrible things and all that.
Right.
Ava doesn't have that background. So
she doesn't have to overcome quite as much as Boyd does?
No, and so she doesn't have that perception. So for what Boyd's, that's business, and I'm sorry, it was personal for her.
I also think that Boyd was really brilliant in sort of, explaining to Ava reminding her why we're doing all this. I mean, that breakdown was like, look, he had to go because he was this, and I can handle this, and I'll follow you anywhere, but this is all getting to be too much, and what are we doing here exactly? Yeah. Where is this going? Right. And then Boyd was like, well, this is where this is going. Right. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this shit either, but guess what? We're all doing this for a reason. What
I loved about how they set the scene up, though, was that in that moment where she's bearing her soul and saying, I've got to know where we're going, because what she was saying was, I feel incredibly vulnerable in this. Right. And I need to know that I'm being protected by you, because not only do I love you, but you're protecting my secrets. Right. And I need to know, I've committed I'm bearing my soul to you. So in all ways, I am vulnerable to you. And he stands up, and in retrospect, we know he was probably very nervous at that point, but the music was incredibly ominous. Yeah, and he said, you, meet me outside in the truck. And I'm going, oh, shit, what is that about? Right. Oh, shoot, what is that about?
Right. And then she was reluctant.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Right.
Well,
that's true. That was, by the way, that was fantastic female analysis, a translation for that, me, a lughead man who, understand like, oh, she's vulnerable. Kevin was right.
Yeah.
Mars, Venus. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what's happening.
I live in vulnerability. I know all about it.
She started talking about feelings, and we both just checked out.
Like,
Thank God I'm here to bring
she's
you
hot.
on track.
When does Raylan kill somebody?
Exactly. So they go out to this overlook, the scenic overlook, the makeout spot, or where Boyd's mom used to take him when she was making out with her boyfriend and would tell Boyd to go look over there. And he would go away in his spaceship, and he gives her a box full of money.
I thought that was a really great way to let you into Boyd's childhood.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was, a spaceship. He wanted to get away, wanted to fly away, and he only, I'm assuming he knew he only had a certain amount of time before they ran him off.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's like you can just live that pain.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then everything he says after that has that filter and has that weight. So when he talks about, the Crowder children, and she's like, children?
Right.
Yeah,
he put it all out in a couple of sentences.
And as
this is
bad
our
as
future.
he is,
Yeah, go ahead.
It was such an honorable thing, which is great. They do this every time. They just go, no. We're going to throw so many layers on this that you're not going to know if he's good, bad, or whatever.
Right.
It's just good writing.
And like we were saying before, still human.
Right.
Human.
Very.
Exactly.
So he's looking at their future. In 3 generations, nobody's going to, the Crowder name is going to mean something different, is basically what he was saying. And she's like, kids? All right, I guess we are in for the ride then.
He's sitting on the porch as an old man looking out at what he's done. And in his mind, he is taking all the hurt, all the pain, and it's going to die with him.
Right.
Whatever it takes.
Right.
And he's not doing it the right way.
Right.
But you can't fault him
But
for the
what a great
desire.
hope, wish, and dream. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been other very, very famous people who did the same thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Indeed. So, even though the music was ominous, ultimately he says, I know you and me, we ain't like most people, professing their love over a box of cash.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, 20s in the bottom, I was disappointed by those. Those should have all been honeys.
That'll be Benjamin's. Those 20s aren't going too far, but.
Well, that's slow week.
This is the bottom. So we started with the 20s and worked his way up to the 100s.
Yeah.
But it was, it's a fairly traditional proposal. I mean, most guys have the box and they open the box. So
Well, there was a box.
There's a box and there's maybe a little bit of cash, but there was still a ring there at the bottom.
Yeah.
What's really amazing is the fact that they're able to keep a love story alive with Raylan's wife in
An L town.
Lexington.
but
Out of town.
Out of town. But they got the love story back with Boyd and Ava.
Yeah.
I was moved. I was genuinely moved.
I want to read you something
really
from the Graham Yost and Joelle Carter, who plays Ava, talking about that scene. She said that she spoke to one of the writers who had the woman, Ingrid Escajeda, who co-wrote the episode with David Andron, and Ingrid said, the scene, it was everything that I imagined. I cried. And so while I am a big softie and I do cry at almost anything, I did not cry at this, this is me talking, at this scene. But Joelle Carter went on to say, honestly, they wanted a big wedding this season. The way the storyline started unfolding and the mess that these people get into, there's not a moment to have a wedding. And so I think they chose an engagement instead. Further, they talk about when when Boyd puts the ring on the wrong hand, she goes, oh, maybe that's the wrong hand. And Graham Yost said he actually put it on the wrong hand. And I don't know if it was the rehearsal or the first take, but Yost said, keep that, Walton. And he said, okay, because it was just so sweet. And it wasn't so much, it doesn't matter, but did it come from Walton being confused or him playing Boyd being confused or just being taken up in that moment? It was, again, another one of those moments of humanity, right?
Yeah, just a universal moment that who's ever proposed or whoever was that nervous, and it was just spot on. And it shows, the human side of Boyd, as bad as he is. Here's a guy that's so nervous he forgot which finger to put the ring on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm really getting concerned about my level of sort of rooting for Boyd and rooting for, not rooting for Boyd specifically, but just understanding Boyd. I mean, we live in a world on cable TV and TV of these complex heroes, and we're rooting for Tony Soprano, we're rooting for Walt on Breaking Bad, we're rooting for these other people. So I mean, it's just this weird world we live on. The Americans were rooting for Russian spies, but I mean, it's really Raylan's always been our guy, but we talk about this yin yang, two sides of the same coin. I mean, I wonder how as the series progresses, how far away Raylan and Boyd will actually be. And Raylan's sort of crossing the line a little bit, and Boyd seems to be going. I don't know. We'll see. But I really don't want to see Boyd go down. So hopefully it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Has Graham Yost said one more season after this?
I don't. I think he said at least one. I can't. We did talk about it, but I don't remember.
Did he say 7 was a good? Because I know he's looking at an end game on this series.
I think it was.
I think the quote was like 7 would be perfect.
Right, if we're lucky enough to get there.
If we're lucky enough to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, that 7 would be good. And you remember, you need to give them somewhere to fall.
Right.
Yeah.
So, giving Boyd a chance at his dream and having everything wonderful and then watching it collapse in the final season would be pretty amazing.
That would be really satisfying. Just to go back about Ava and Boyd, let's talk about them needing to get to Napier's party. We forgot to talk about that.
I was going to say there's no wedding, but there's a swinger party.
Right.
The eyes wide shut, the hillbilly eyes wide shut party.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a swinger party next.
Shut.
Eyes wide shut.
So Ava, that scene where she goes to Arnold's house and has the picture of a mascot,
confused, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Oh, look. That's not you.
That's not you, is it? No, it is not.
Okay, I got confused.
All right.
Help me out. He got shot.
Yeah, but he didn't get killed. We talked about that when it happened.
But, there was no, okay. All right. I would just think, so how do you explain you come home with a couple of bullet holes?
Yeah, we talked about it when it happened because they spoke about it in the very next either scene or episode that, he still had to show up to work and he had to hide his wounds, basically, and he did.
They sort of hinted it was like they implied it was a flesh wound.
Right.
It was implied because he can go to work, he can hide it. Maybe the furry costume helped him.
Or the judge robes,
Sure.
Of course, I don't know what you do with those when you get home to April, the cheerleader.
Well, yeah. So, so Napier was the judge, was the sheriff from the very first season.
Yes.
And he does not like Boyd. In fact, Boyd got him kicked out of office.
Right.
And Boyd's going to his party.
Right. Yes.
Presumably to get information about
where Drew Thompson is.
Okay.
When they called them the Cherry Hill?
Yeah, I think it was the Cherry Hill, folk.
Right.
Over 50s. Because those are the people that they're thinking they're going to find at Napier's party. All right?
Got it.
Yeah, Cherry Hill people.
It's reconnaissance, honey. Really. I'm sleeping with that guy over there. It's reconnaissance. I swear. I'm just trying to figure things out.
Wait.
Well, you're going to know if anyone's wearing a wire.
Yes, you will.
I'm pretty sure.
So they alluded last week to he's not on with the Hill people. He's with the different hill. Is that the Cherry Hill, presumably? Is that what they mean?
Yes.
Like she's not with these hills, us hill people. She's with those hill people.
Oh,
the Cherry Hill people. I think that's I'm assuming that's what's happening.
You need a flow chart. You need a dang flow chart on this show.
Well, and also, the other thing is that Josiah Cairn said that Hunter knows, where Drew Thompson is too. So we've got a couple of different avenues of how to find him. But swinger party next week. Woohoo! Steve, why don't you talk about our news? Or Joe, you're going to talk about our news.
We've got
AfterBuzz TV News.
Kind of that news, but it's AfterBuzz TV.
It's big.
News.
Yeah, before we get our news, we've been talking a lot about the Serial Buddies trailer, but we're very excited to announce that the movie is actually coming out. Adventures of Serial Buddies, hilarious. Produced by our very own Kevin Ndegaro and Maria Menounos, our CEOs and fearless leaders. It's packed with great people. It's got my girl Beth from Two Broke Girls, Beth Bears, Artie Lang, Kathy Lee Gifford, who's funny, super funny in this, Christopher Lloyd, Christopher McDonald, and of course Maria Menounos and the voice of my hero, the Fonz, Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler.
So it's great, and it's funny. That's all I can say. It's really, really funny. And you know, I will also say that our very own Steve Bottomley has a couple of songs.
Get out. He does?
That's what I heard.
Really?
Oh, my God.
There's a couple songs in this movie.
Well, you know, full disclosure, my son and I did do a couple of songs.
Nice.
Okay.
They were kind enough to say, yes, we will put them in.
Okay.
Whatever.
And we can hear them, actually? Are they in the background? Are they...
No, you get to hear them.
No, you can hear them, absolutely.
Well placed, and we're very, very happy and excited to see it and hear it. And I will tell you that there are moments in there where you are like trying to catch your breath, and involving someone we all know who is not here to talk.
Right, exactly.
But he does some amazing work in that, and it is a very funny movie.
Yeah, it was definitely a sort of family production with all of us doing things. I did the costumes on the film, so there's a lot to see in it. Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, so serialbuddies.com, you can find out where we're releasing to 6 cities right now.
6 cities is going to be out, March 8th. So New York City, Los Angeles, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco. Get your tickets before they're sold out. You can watch the trailer. You can pre-order the movie. Find out everything you know about the movie at serialbuddies.com, and follow at Maria Menounos at serial_buddies on Twitter, at serial_buddies on Twitter. March 8th, Adventures of Serial Buddies. That has everyone in this thing except for me.
It's big fun. You're in the audience.
You're involved. John's involved.
You were late to the party.
It was a family effort. It was definitely a family effort.
Dumb and Dumber meets Dexter.
Okay, real quick, two just pieces of news. They're very stingy with the news on anybody who's involved in this show, so it's hard to find a lot of it. But two things I have. One, describing the swinger party that is going to be next week on next week's show. Graham Yost says, and I quote, "There are a lot of naked extras."
Oh.
So, gentlemen and ladies, tune in. We are going to have some nakedity next week.
Yes.
Also, a little bit of a spoiler, episode 10 this season.
Spoiler alert.
So we're a few away. I so wanted to say this while we were talking about it, but it's more appropriate now. Ellen May gets, quote, a slight bit of revenge on Ava. So they are absolutely coming together in episode 10, and there will be some sort of revenge scenario that comes to play.
Slight bit.
A slight bit of revenge on Ava is what Graham Yost said.
What, like X-Lax brownies or something?
I don't know, maybe so. Well, and if he says slight bit, he could just be freaking Graham Yost and be exaggerating and underselling something huge, or he could just be being coy.
Right.
That's what he does.
Real quick, they are amping up Boyd's lawyer.
Last
episode, this episode.
That was some crazy stuff. Sonia.
We're not seeing a lot of people get shot, but that cut off foot.
Gerald McCraney and his foot.
That was some good.
I saw way too much of that foot.
That was some good effects there.
Yeah, the stump. The bloody stump.
I mean, the episode's called Foot Chase, and there was a lot of
the foot puns were great.
The puns
awesome.
were intended. Foot Chase here.
Yeah, they're not disappointing in their blood.
No.
Ugh, no.
Rattlesnake to the face, chopped off foot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we got to get our grossness in. It's justified.
Right.
So let's move on to predictions.
Prediction.
Joe, I think you should start us off.
Well, I'm really very interested to find out how and what is going to happen to our guy, Colton. And I really think that, I honestly think that, I disagree. I think that Boyd is going to take out Colton. I think that that's a confrontation that is long coming. And I like the idea of Tim taking out Colton, but I think it's going to be Boyd. I think it's going to be one of these necessary moments. Boyd brought him in, he'll take him out, to quote Bill Cosby in The Cosby Show.
And then we gotta have some Jello.
I have kind of a weird prediction, and it's a bit of a long shot, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it's based on the fact that Gerald McCraney is playing Josiah Cairn. I am going to say Josiah Cairn is Drew Thompson.
That's a good one. I
I'm
like
saying
that
it right
one.
here, right now.
Well,
I want to back you on
we
that.
know-
Oh, thank you.
I like that.
It's an out there one, and I could be way wrong.
Oh, I like that. That sounds about right.
Okay.
Well, I think
Steve?
you have a foot in the door on that one.
Yeah, I do indeed. I'm going to be footloose and say that's what my prediction is. Steve, what do you got for us?
I'm going to stick with my original. I think Mark is going to take Tim into a place that is going to jeopardize either Tim or someone around him. I think Mark is going to force Tim to do something that, you know, because of their friendship, and it's going to come back and haunt Tim.
Do you think drugs will be involved? Meaning, do you think Tim is going to take drugs?
Oh.
That's my direct question.
I don't think he will, but obviously drugs will be involved because it's Mark. But, you know, Mark is still, you're right, it's 2 months in, he's still the loose cannon sort of thing, and that seems to be the theme right now, is like you're either getting in or you're getting out or whatever. So I think that's why they're setting that up. I think they're going to give Tim a dilemma.
I think that's a good prediction, and I think it'll be interesting to see what that is.
But I think Tim keeps both his feet.
Okay, excellent prediction. Joe, tell us where you can be found in the world of the web.
This week, you can find me on Grantland.com. I have a series coming out on Lucasfilm ILM that launches Thursday on Grantland.com.
Nice.
You can also follow me on Twitter at Joe K. Braswell, and my work is on Extra too.
Awesome. Stephen
so
Bottomley.
you need to look up and try to find you?
Well, yeah, not
Drinking game. You can find me at Twitter at Bottomley Steven, and also you can hear me in the new Adventures of Serial Buddies movie.
That's right. You can find me at Tamara Berg. That's TAMARABERG on Twitter. Also, I have a website, tamaracentral.com. And I also do Downton Abbey here at AfterBuzz and Smash, and occasionally you can see me on Home and Family on the Hallmark Channel. Not exactly the same demo for Justified as Home and Family, but you know, sometimes they cross over.
You're their go-to girl.
That is it for tonight. We will see you next week for the next episode of Justified. See you then.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.